Hey there. It's another beautiful day. Let's watch some stuff.
Some people do stupid things. Don't do stupid things. You are about to hear my opinion. Do your own research.
I'm really sitting here thinking, and it's really frying my brain. Cause why the hell do airplanes got emergency exits with no parachutes? What I'm jumping to, hell?
So yesterday, a member of our community, Belladonna, sent me this message on TikTok and was like, why don't airplanes have parachutes? And my brain went into it, like, why not? And of course, there's the usual explanations.
Commercial planes do not have parachutes for passenger safety. At altitudes of 8,000 to 10,000 meters, the pressure difference can suck passengers out or into the engines if the door opens. Temperatures can drop to 40 degrees C, and the lack of oxygen makes survival difficult. Without professional training, parachuting is dangerous and impractical. Therefore, planes are equipped with safer emergency slides and life vests.
Now that is the logical explanation because I could never jump out of a plane. I wouldn't know what to do. And there's so many hazards along with it, right? We're not professionals. Most people are not professionals, and people are flying with their family. And if they're like, yeah, here's a parachute, go ahead. It's not a very good thing to do. But what Belladonna had to say was, it's because of lawsuits. Like, they don't want survivors. If there's going to be an accident, why would they want people to survive, to sue the companies? Now, I know that surviving family members could do the same thing, which is, obviously going to happen. But that is very interesting. Like, if something happens and the plane's going down, they're like, we're taking everybody down with this mug. That's pretty crazy. I mean, that's a real conspiracy brain way to think, and I totally appreciate that. And I started digging, and I couldn't find anything to support that, but I love the rationale. And then I found this.
It's almost impossible for the passengers on board to survive. Whether it's business class or economy, passengers are not given parachutes. This is the reason over 100,000 people have lost their lives in plane crashes so far. But now this will no longer be the case, as a Russian engineering team is working on detachable airplane technology. In this design, the airplane will be structured in such a way that in any emergency situation, the passenger section will detach from the rest of the plane. After this, with the help of 2 advanced parachutes, the passenger cabin can be safely landed on any water or land surface. In this way, passengers will be able to survive without any harm. What do you think about this design? Let us know in the comments.
Okay. So I didn't look that up to see if it's actually a thing that's in production. But I want to look at both sides of the coin on this one. With the theory that Belladonna put forward that they don't want any survivors, this could be a little piece of propaganda where Americans are like, hey, Russians are doing it. Why aren't we trying to save people on airplanes and putting these things in? And maybe we start putting them in, and then the Russians get, money off the patent or something like that, or they're developing it for whatever reason, and then they get the profit from it. Now, on the other side of the coin, that's a lot of extra machinery. It needs to be maintained and serviced, and it can go wrong. There's possible failure. The more stuff you put in, the more stuff can go wrong. That's how I see it. Could you imagine just being on a plane and you're cruising, and then all of a sudden the whole passenger compartment just falls off? Oops. That's an even bigger thing. But I see where Belladonna is going, saying that they don't have these safety features on these planes because for one reason or another, we're all going down with this ship. Thank you so much, Belladonna, for that absolutely wonderful piece of brain food. My brain is still spinning about it.
All these rich people, all these billionaires, they know something. We don't. You guys ever heard of Gordon Michael Stallion? No one talks about him. But listen, this guy, people called him a prophet. He had visions, real visions of how the world would change. And he made a map, a doomsday map. Doomsday as in California underwater, Florida flooded. And right through the middle of the US, a massive, huge river splitting the country in two. Crazy is what they want you to think. But look where the billionaires are buying land. Bill Gates owns most of the farmland in America now. And guess where high ground safe zones are? A lot of them are moving to Texas too. And look at the map. Texas is untouched dry. It's all planned. They're getting ready. I'm telling you, they know they're not guessing, not gambling. They have the blueprint for what's coming.
We've seen the Doomsday Map before. Turns out it was in a book from 1997. It's called, I looked it up, Notes from the Cosmos, a futurist's insight into the world of dream prophecy and intuition. And that's where this map is featured, I'm assuming, based on my little clackety-clackety search. And yeah, it's a pretty interesting map, and it's interesting how certain people that have tons of money go out and buy property that's not devastated in that map, especially people who are pushing the New World Order. So, makes you think.
This here is a perfect example of what the media does to get people to hate Trump. The Vatican asked Pope Francis' funeral attendees to wear all black. Trump wore a blue suit. So that's what the media says, and this is the image they show you, right? Now here's a picture with more context, and you can see how many other people were dressed. I'm zooming in a little bit more so you can see it. There's a lot more blue than what the media was trying to lead people to believe. Again, this is the image they showed us, and this was the reality. And this is a perfect example of why the trust in the traditional media is at an all-time low. Like, they had to zoom in and get the perfect situation to push their narrative. And again, it's not about being intellectually honest or even fair. It's about pushing a narrative. And this is a perfect example of that. And it's beautiful to see the American people picking up on that and not trusting these traditional media outlets. Clearly, he was not the only person wearing blue there, but the media wants you to believe something else.
I saw this last night and I just about lost my brain. Yeah, no, our president isn't perfect. No president has been. And of course, one side is going to be on his side and the other side is going to not. That's just how it goes. But when the media gets involved and they turn it into what it has become, but what gives? Everybody was doing the same thing. But no, they had to take that little tiny piece and be like, look how stupid our president is. It's insane. It needs to stop. There needs to be unbiased journalism again. And I don't even know how long it's been since we've had unbiased journalism. Certainly not in my lifetime that I can recall. And more of that would be healthier for our nation.
A 500-year-old ice wall map has just been discovered, and this might be the best one yet because it fits a lot of the missing pieces together that we've had for a while. Now look at this. This is supposed to be Antarctica, but it's all green because it was 500 years ago, and it was at a time when the world was much warmer and there were no winters anywhere. And there's so much detail. These people, they drew exactly what they saw, and they saw all these creatures on these other continents, and this relates to the the flat earth German map from the 1940s that they used when they went out and discovered what was going on in Antarctica, and they mapped it all out. And this relates exactly to that map, and this even has Agartha right in the center. It actually shows the continent there. And this is the flat earth German map from the 1940s, which shows where they went out on expeditions back then to Antarctica, and they mapped out everything that they found. But since this is almost 500 years later compared to the other map I just showed you, these other continents are now frozen over by ice sheets because everything freezes over time. But I don't have an animation to show how that works. But this map right here is supposed to be a moon map reflection, and that is just the moon. They say that the moon acts like a map to everybody on Earth, and this is a reflection of everything, and it shows where all of our continents are. It's really hard to explain without animation, but I just saw a lot of similarities between this map and the other one, and no one has pointed this out yet. And this is the highest resolution image that I could find of this map, but if you look closely, if you zoom in, you'll see all these different kind of creatures. That looks like a dinosaur. How'd they even know those existed 500 years ago unless they actually saw them and all these other type of creatures that used to be around? It kind of proves what I've been saying this entire time about all these ancient creatures that the medieval people wrote about. They wrote about exactly what they saw, and these had to be real, otherwise we wouldn't have so many stories about them.
As a globe propagandist, I'm going to go ahead and leave it to y'all. Let me know in the comments section what you think about that.
What if Pangea was phase one? Like, no, sit here and think about it. I need y'all to work with me. What if continental drift from Pangea was phase one? Because when you look at Pangea, it was a giant landmass. It was just one landmass. And all the separate continents we have now, when you push them together, they fit together perfectly like a giant puzzle. So if continental drift happened where they just cracked apart, why do they all still fit perfectly together? It's like something from above, like a giant laser, sliced the continents up and caused them to drift apart. Is y'all still with me? Okay, phase two. Y'all remember giants, the Nephilim, how massive they were? Then you think about all the massive trees we used to have. Those trees contributed greatly to our atmosphere, the oxygen supply, how big we could get. Like, it contributed a lot to our ecosystem. Those trees also helped us connect to each other and to the land. Y'all remember the movie Avatar, the Na'vi, when they had that big ass tree? They called their big ass tree God because it connected all of them to their ancestors and everything. Bro, my mind be on a trillion when I be by myself, bro. So that's phase two. Chop down their trees. So they mix their DNA with the indigenous inhabitants of the land's DNA to create ground troops to do the dirty work so that they would go unnoticed. Now they've severed our connection from the land, from each other, and from our ancestors. Phase three, sweep the land. Destroy everything they have, all their architecture, their way of life. Destroy it all. Phase four, breeding and indoctrination. Somebody please come take my phone from me, please.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. At the very beginning, he lost me, and I was going, oh, great, another one of those. But then it got better. I think that was absolutely incredible the way he put that together. Personally, I don't believe it in that necessary manner, but I can dig it.
This is mind-blowing and something to think about. Do you ever think about what happens to the bodies after you leave a funeral procession? Why do I ask? Because there's a viral video that's going around where a guy explains how he allegedly believes, because of the weight of some of the caskets, that there are no bodies in them. So this gentleman right here claims that while he was on his side gig of digging graves, he's seen things that have led him to believe that there are no bodies inside the caskets. So basically, while he was digging a grave, the cemetery director walked over to him and said, hey, we need to dig up that grave. So he went ahead and they dug up the casket. Upon digging up the casket, it came up uneven, a little crooked, sideways is what he says, like it didn't have enough weight in it. So after that, the funeral director told him it should be lifted up manually. So they went ahead, they lifted it up manually, and that's when he felt that it wasn't heavy enough, and he said to himself, I don't think there's a body inside this. So he basically asked, why is this casket so light? The funeral director turned to him and said, don't ask questions that you're not ready for. One thing I want you to think about now that this story has come to light and you never thought about it, I never thought about it, there are 144,000 cemeteries across the US as of 2025. One question you should be asking is, when was the last time you seen them build a new cemetery? So of course, I went and did some digging. Why haven't you seen new cemeteries being built? Here is what came up when I searched for it. Land availability. They are building like crazy all over the United States. Therefore, where are you going to put cemeteries? Increased land costs, but funerals cost an arm and a leg. Excuse the pun. Environmental concerns, alternate burial options, and grave recycling. You heard what I said, grave recycling. There is a such thing. In some cases, cemeteries are expanding their capacity by reusing burial spaces through a practice called grave recycling. So the question remains, with so many people across the United States, people pass away every day, every minute. What's going on with the bodies? Where are they going? Are you thinking about this? Is it something that I've never thought about this until I listened to that viral video, and I'm starting to say, Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments, and as always, I'd love to hear from you.
That whole time, I was thinking that a lot more people are opting for cremation. And, that takes up very little space. But then he said grave recycling, and my brain goes, what? Grave recycle? That's actually a practice? Like, do they remove, really, really old bodies? I know people are sometimes buried on top of each other, like they purchase the plot together, but that's few and far in between. What the heck is going on? And then it makes me think, I know we talked about this before, it makes me think of a cemetery right by my folks' house where I grew up. And they've never expanded. Yet they're constantly holding funerals. And it's confusing. Like, literally, where are these bodies going? I mean, it really doesn't matter to me personally, because I think it's just a vessel. Once you're gone, you're gone. So do with it what you will, as long as you don't break any laws. But what are the laws about space in the facility? Where do they go? I don't get it. I don't know.
Is not on the top of the shelf for the manufacturers. What's on the top of the shelf is keeping you sick. So we have to be diligent about the things that we're eating. If you're eating seedless grapes, right? Seedless watermelons. Think about a human body. We all have seeds in us too. The man has seeds that produce a child. The woman has seeds that produce a child. What would a seedless man be like, or a seedless woman? They would be sterile. So there's a gene called a terminator gene that was invented by a company to take away seeds so that farmers could be dependent on biotechnology companies like Monsanto.
I always thought about that, like a seedless watermelon and seedless grapes. Okay, how did they grow them? There's no seeds. There can't possibly be a seedless variety of something. How? It's genetically modified to be more appealing to people because seeds are so pesky. Oh, I don't want to deal with the seeds. Buy the seedless variety, the one that's more genetically modified. Therefore, the demand increases because it's more convenient. And then these companies that are creating these genetically modified the abominations are in control. Oh my goodness, that is, wow, I never even put that together.
The sandwich is often credited to John Montagu IV, the Earl of Sandwich, who supposedly invented it to avoid interrupting his gambling sessions. However, the truth is far creepier and shrouded in secrecy. It is said that the sandwich was actually created by a secret society known as the Order of the Bread, which emerged in the 18th century. This group believed that food should be consumed in a manner that concealed its true nature. Thus, they devised a method of enclosing various fillings between two pieces of bread to hide the ingredients from the public. Rumors suggest that the fillings often included strange and exotic substances, thought to enhance human abilities or even grant supernatural powers in an attempt to control the masses. However, as the society grew more powerful, their practices became increasingly sinister, leading to mysterious disappearances of individuals who questioned the sandwich's origins to this day. Many of these recipes have been lost or hidden away in vaults, leaving only the basic sandwich we know today. While people enjoy this simple meal, few are aware of its haunting pasta. And the lengths to which powerful entities gotta keep these secrets buried.
I love when AI messes up because few are aware of its haunting pasta. But the sandwich, come on. That makes me think of Back to School. I just saw that the other day with Rodney Dangerfield. Oh, and Robert Downey Jr. when he was a kid. That was pretty interesting to see that. But how he's at the party and he's all pissed off and he just takes a big old loaf of bread and rips it open and starts stuffing all of this fancy stuff inside of it. It made me think of that because they're trying to conceal its contents. But let me find my... I think it's a bit of... Yeah.
Why are you reading a washing machine manual? This is not a washing machine manual. What do you mean? It says General Electric right on. Yes, General Electric, maker of the GAU-8 Avenger machine gun on the A-10 Thunderbolt. First of all, that's a warthog. Second of all, Fairchild Republic makes the A-10. Fairchild Republic makes the A-10. General Electric makes the machine gun. So you're telling me that the people that make that are the same people that make that? Yes, that one spins to make something clean, that one spins to make something disappear. It's really not that complicated. You don't find it weird that a company that makes toasters is a company that also vaporizes people? Vaporize is not the right word. I neutralize targets, but toasters, machine guns, it's all just engineering. God, capitalism is weird.
So, this is episode 341. And that was my son's very first submission to this channel. I just thought it was so cool that last night he's like, Mom, I'm gonna send you something. It's crazy. And he's a brilliant kid, like absolutely, hands down, smartest kid I've ever known. And he shocks me sometimes with the information that he knows. But he hasn't quite gotten to the point where he's learned about corporations and how they buy out little smaller corporations and then they produce all kinds of weird crap under this one umbrella corporation. And that's how the country works. And I didn't want to destroy his sense of wonder and be like, yeah, that's how it works. So I'm letting him live on this one. But it is super interesting that your washing machine and this heavy weaponry is made by the same corporation.
Now, this is scary. You know those Walmart brands, there's like Great Value and then the regular brands, right? So they have Cool Whip and then they have just the regular whipped cream. Did you know it's made by the same company? What Great Value is, they go to the same manufacturers and they just get it made cheaper without that brand name. So, you know, the canned veggies, the big name brand is called Green Giant, and the Great Value canned veggies are also made by Green Giant. It's the same with cereal. There's this store called Aldi in the States. Now, this store is known for having the best products that match up to the big name brands. That's how they promote their store. So if you go into Aldi, they have this brand called Millville, and all their cereals are offshoots of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, offshoots of Cookie Crisps, offshoots of Rice Krispies, and the look so similar, all made by Millville. The real name brand is made by General Mills. They dug deep and found out that Millville is the same thing as General Mills. It's the exact same. They've been lying this whole time. They also taste the exact same.
This kind of sideways ties into the last clip, how there's the umbrella company, because there's only like a handful of corporations that basically make everything. And it's not like Procter & Gamble making bleach and Hidden Valley Ranch. It's like Procter & Gamble making Hidden Valley Ranch and Great Value Ranch and this other label and this other label ranch, but it's all the same product.
Time to wake up. After this, you can no longer be in the Matrix. If you still are, then you do not have an inner monologue and you're definitely a robot. A real one. Okay, so let's talk about burgers. Specifically burgers. So, in the United States, there are 86.6 million cows. Correct? That's what it says on Google. Okay. How many burgers are sold at McDonald's each day? 5.4 million burgers. That's a lot of burgers. How many burgers in the whole United States, not just McDonald's, at every restaurant and grocery store, are sold each year? 50 billion burgers. Okay, we're not even going to worry about how many farmers there are. We're just going to do easy math in our head. There are 212 million white people in the United States, correct? Look it up. I just told y'all. I just showed y'all. Okay, let's say each one of those white people had 60 cows, correct? They had 60 cows. So we're going to multiply that because that's going to give us the amount of patties we get, correct? So 212 million multiplied by 60 is 12 billion 712 billion. 13 billion patties each year, right? And in the US, 50 billion burgers are sold each year. So if the whole freaking United States white people all had their own farm, they would only make 12 billion patties each year. But somehow we just produce 50 billion burgers each year. Okay. I had to get creative with it. Because motherfuckers didn't want to do the math or whatever. But I got they ass.
Y'all quit it with the beep, okay? But all of that math, it was bad math. So ultimately, every white person owns 60 cows. Therefore, I should have 240 cows, which equates to 240 patties. So cows only weigh 2 ounces because you know those McDonald's patties are like nothing. Even if they're a quarter pound, I mean, that's 4 ounces. I've never seen a 4-ounce cow in my life. Yeah, that was terrible. I thought that there was going to be some profound realization, but apparently it's just terrible math. Yeah.
Here are 5 food facts that you probably didn't know. Number 1, M&Ms, Tic Tacs, Nerds, Gummy Bears are made from the same wax that you use to polish your car, if you have one. Number 2, red food dye is commonly made from bugs. You can grind the cochineal bug or you can boil it. It will then develop into a natural red color. It's very, very common. Your red Skittles are fucking covered in it. Number 3, if you ingest large doses of nutmeg, you can get high as fuck. It consists of a chemical compound called myristicin, though I do not recommend it because it can fuck. Number 4, peanut oil is used to make the key component in dynamite. If you're at war and a stick of dynamite lands in your lap, be careful if you're allergic, because if it blows up, you can get really sick. You're welcome. Number 5, what's your favorite Fruit Loop flavor or color? If you answered with a specific color or flavor, you're a fucking liar. There's no different flavors. They're all the same. Have a good fucking day.
So on Wednesday, we talked about bugs being used as food dyes, and Alexander Langston mentioned in the comments that it's already happening with red dye. And I saw that and I was like, hey, that's what Alexander Langston just said. So it was, yeah. And then everything else in there, I had no clue about the peanut oil being a component in dynamite. That's incredible. And yeah, the Fruit Loops, they're all the same. They're all the same. But yeah, the stuff that we consider to be food, it's a very interesting thing, isn't it? All right, it's time to continue our CIA black site story. And I told you that part 4 was missing some audio, and I managed to find the entire thing, which is great because originally I had 6 parts slated, each about 2 minutes. So that's about 12 minutes because I can do good math. And the original one is actually like 22 minutes. So I actually found the entire thing. Oh, we're not going to watch the rest of it today. I broke it up into little pieces, but they're larger pieces, which is great. So let's watch the next part of our CIA black site story.
We're looking at a receipt for the booking of a private jet through a contractor working with the CIA. We see that they booked a Gulfstream 4 to go from DC to Thailand. This is where they loaded up Abu Zubaydah and a few other secret prisoners. They then fly to the United Arab Emirates. And here's where things get interesting, because from there, the official flight records say that this plane went to Austria and then London, but it actually didn't. This is a dummy flight record that the CIA planted so that we would never know what they actually did. But because of this receipt, we know that they actually flew to a small airport in rural Poland. The CIA then drives their prisoners 20 minutes from this little airport to a military prison in the woods. The CIA had paid the Polish intelligence agency $15 million of cash delivered in cardboard boxes, all in exchange for the use of this facility, their second secret terrorist torture prison, or what we're now going to call Black Site. This one was called Detention Site Blue. This is where they would continue their interrogation work, continuing to abduct suspected terrorists and quietly bringing them here, often scrambling their flight paths and faking their flight records so that this story could never be told, and continuing to use violent torture to interrogate their prisoners. But again, this couldn't last too long. After a year, they were on the move again, worried that the world was catching on. So in September 2003, and here comes another series of flight paths, from Washington, D.C., bouncing around a few countries before ending up in Poland, where they loaded up their secret prisoners once again and took off. Headed to Romania, where the CIA had negotiated access to the basement of a government building in September 2003, their next black site. And then to Morocco, where the CIA was negotiating with the government for another black site. They ended up paying $20 million to build a prison that was codenamed Bombay. But in the end, they never used it, instead using Morocco's local prisons to house their prisoners for a short time. And then over to Cuba, to the US naval base at Guantanamo Bay, where they opened 2 black sites, detention site Maroon and Indigo. These sites were kept separate from the military prison at Guantanamo Bay. And honestly, not much is known about them. In fact, they're only mentioned one time and in a footnote in this Senate report that eventually came out. Look at this map. This is one way to visualize the global network that the CIA created. These are the known flight paths that the CIA took to transfer prisoners around their black sites. By 2004, they had captured about 100 prisoners, consistently moving them around, hoping to stay out of the light, out of the scrutiny of the public, the press, and oftentimes the home governments of these places where they were moving their prisoners. And by the way, all of this data, these flight paths, this information, we know about because of an investigation and a Senate report that later came out, and some amazing investigative journalism by the Rendition Project, who boiled a lot of this down, pieced together a lot of the information, and allowed us to see this in an accessible way. You can find so much more detail at the Rendition Project website if you want to check that out. Let's look at this network again. The CIA using 54 countries to traffic their secret flights through to cover their tracks from the law and the press. This reportedly includes a little-known British territory in the Indian Ocean, Diego Garcia. And in the end, the CIA had a total of 9 secret prisons, at least that we know of.
I'm so glad that I went digging for the rest of this because you know me and I am very non-Paul Harvey in finding the rest of the story, but I can't wait to see the rest. This is absolutely insane. And finding out what the CIA does, and you know they're still doing it and they got better channels now because this is 20 years ago and now they're doing all kinds of other stuff that we don't even know about. And it's disgusting, but it is the way that we work. And who knows what other countries are doing the exact same thing. I mean, probably not here on our soil, but in other countries. It's crazy, just mind-boggling. And I can't wait to watch the next part. On that note, I'm calling it for today. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. If you haven't already, please hit the like button, consider subscribing, and then come on back in a couple of days. We're going to watch some new stuff. I'll say different things, and it's going to be fantastic. Until then, have a wonderful day.